Hi. Today there's a very palpable shift in the energy where it went from kind of more of an oppressive wormhole where we're getting a lot of tension from the people around us and also our own cycles, feeling a lot of things, in fact, happening within our physical bodies as they reassemble their own constitution in a way that supports the expanded energy. That's a very grueling process, and it's important to spend time intentionally pulling away from certain things, certain people, certain tasks to allow for integration and support the integration. So again, I always harp on this, but sleeping more than you might need to, if you're very, very tired, taking that time and taking it seriously. Because when your conscious mind goes offline and you're in a deep sleep, then you can truly do that integration and healing the way that your body needs. There's no intention or force involved with that. And a lot of the times with our waking minds, we actually end up providing ourselves reasons as to why what is happening with us, because we may not fully understand certain aspects, why those things are wrong or concerning or need some type of action out of us in order for us to restore what it is that we feel is off. And there's a clarity coming through where I feel like there's a little bit of tension in the past few days, and it's our tension, but it's reflected in certain different dynamics that we have with people where there might be tension, almost like we manifested it in, like a few more difficult things to deal with than usual. And it's given way today to like the grace that occurs in a quiet place in moments. People talk about the calm before the storm, but what about the calm after the storm, you know? Things may lay in a disassembled position, you know, branches having been struck down on the ground, leaves have fallen, but everything is saturated. The plants are fed. The landscape was shifted. But there's a serenity in post-storm energy in a way that feels processed. I think about a couple who's not good at conflict resolution, and then maybe they have it out, and maybe there are unhealthy elements of that communication and what is taking place between the two of them. But afterwards, even if you have hard conversations or arguments, you do tend to feel better. And so we kind of have had that with the universe a little bit. Past week in particular, and now today, it's like we have this sense of feeling as if there's a calm after the argument. Maybe we don't necessarily make sense of all of the things that have shifted, but I feel it as being more breathable. And something that I was talking about the other evening, I think I titled it like talking about manifestation. It was one of my rants, one of my voice memos. I was talking about how we don't necessarily, sometimes it's hard to work with how truly powerful our manifesting abilities are, especially at a time like this, and how it's intensifying for many, many, many people. It's like we can almost not even help but put limitations on what it is that we can accomplish, because when you can accomplish anything right now and you have limitless potential to move forward and achieve things and draw things towards you, you get to cast off these previously confining ropes of limitation that have sort of been fizzled out. They just simply can't climb the grade of ascension curve that the silica rainbow iridescent subway car that's pulling away from the wreckage of the old paradigms as it's crashing. Certain constrictions and confining factors It's like we are finally realizing that we can dream outside of those because they won't be relevant. And the more that you can feed into the idea that they won't be relevant and give yourself permission to move in that direction, the more momentum will build. There's a whole lot of inertia with our manifestation ability right now. And what I was talking about in the other video was like, maybe it's not the time. This was the reading when I was wearing a turtleneck. Doesn't matter. I was talking about how maybe it's not the time to do all of the more like traditional, grounded, manifesting steps to think about what it is that we're changing, releasing, and want. And I'm double backing on that because I think that the energy has shifted once again, and that it is. We just need to do it in a new way. Because if we're very dedicated to that, but we're still doing it under binds of restriction that are from illusion, that's still, the illusion is still in a developmental phase of like lifting and then sinking back in and then lifting and pulling away. We're in the taffy pull again of that separation. So you can see it two ways. If you are welcoming this ceilingless ability, then take to those practices. We're going into the tunnel. But if it's making you feel, if it's highlighting how very far you are away from having that stuff, then I would say that that wouldn't be productive, because the way that it would feel now, I read something, I get a daily quote from Abraham Hicks Publications to my email. I don't read them every day, but I was moved to today. I was like gravitated in towards the email, and I opened it, and it said, you become so familiar with how it feels, the ins and outs of, it didn't say quite this, I'm extrapolating on it. You become so familiar with how it feels, what it is that you want, and your imagination works out the kinks of what stands in the way of you truly having and embodying all of that. And so when it's so familiar, it's like you can smell it, breathe it, taste it, feel it. Then the only next logical step is then for it to manifest. And that's the faith component as well. So I did not think, at the time of the last new moon, I said, this is not one of those times for me where I'm in a more intentional space of gratitude and trying to maximize on this energy in a certain way. It was a time of rest for me. Excuse me. But this full moon, I mean, it's an eclipse as well. So personally, I believe that things are done a little bit differently at the times of the eclipses. I mean, you have people online who are like, do not do things like put out moon water. Do not do things like, you know, rituals, really. Manifestation rituals. If there's an eclipse on a full moon, I'm not sure I relate to that. I believe that I will be doing certain things this weekend in 2 days for this full moon. I'm very guided to do the things in the way that I'm going to do them, because the energy has shifted, and I'm like, not only do I feel moved now in the 2 weeks that have passed since the new moon, not only do I want to fuel my energy into the things that I'm trying to create for myself, but I feel this deep resonance with the idea that it is the next logical step for me, for certain things to just inevitably have to materialize and manifest, because of how much groundwork has been laid, and because I do feel very, you know, I am a person to a lot of different people in my life, and they know of me in certain ways, and they can speak on me in certain ways, but there are certain ways for years, the deepest, innermost closet of my heart and my own destiny and my own projects, there's a grand scale part of my inner world that nobody in my life has ever known, because that's my private world. and it's been helping me navigate everything in my life. And I speak to and I speak of myself and who I am in a very different way in that inner space, because that's how I've seen myself as becoming one day. And it's just time to take that a lot more seriously and understand, like, my body vibrating out of alignment with a lot of things. Sometimes our conscious minds are behind understanding that. And we go childlike on it, ego states of behavioralistic patterns. Oh, that's taken away from me. I was playing with that toy. But there are plateaus of ways of thinking and ways of being. And instead of long steps, I don't know if you've ever been to Pittsburgh, but there's the Carnegie Museum of Art, and there are these steps that go up to one of the galleries, and the way that they're built, they're a little bit too long of a step. Like, architecturally, they're funny because they ask you can't get a natural stride. You can't put one foot after the other. It's almost like every other step you have to take 2 steps to get up. And I like them, and I think that they're funny. They're like these conceptual, it's like a riddle in a staircase. It's like a conceptual art puzzle of a staircase. It's cool architecturally because it makes you have a conscious engagement with the way that you're ascending a staircase, which is a pretty involuntary thing to do. We walk up them, we walk down them, and this one you can't just do that with. And so if you think of the notion of plateau, it's an expanse that's on the same latitude, and you keep moving in one direction but without ascension. And these plateaus are turning into staircase. I mean, it's a curve, whatever you want to call it, but the plateau is real, because at each plateau, the gateway to the next step up is the key to seeing the gateway is through the integration that the plateau has to offer. This is why in an ascension journey that's spiral and cyclical in nature, there will be challenges at every new level, and they will resemble former challenges because of that fractal expansion principle in creation energy. It doesn't mean that you're not moving forward or towards the things that you want. And something about the way that instead of plateau, these plateaus are getting shorter. They're turning into building blocks and steps, really. It's not to say that once we finish this transit, we'll be on, the penultimate plateau. We can rest easy up there and we'll never have to ascend again. It makes me think of zooming into a spider web again and seeing it as this big, thick cable. There's no urgency in this journey and even this transit, despite how it feels on every level because of that. This will always be the case, and so we have to just be so incredibly patient with our own acclimation to certain parts of how things feel and what it means to actually be aware of the fact that your conscious mind is only one component of your entire experience. Your subconscious mind is a part of the experience, and that our understandings of our own experience, in fact, will always be limited. They cannot help but be limited. And so I just see us as we're like visitors of our own lives. Like, we're aliens touching down on Earth in our own lives each and every day. We're just little adventurers out here, refamiliarizing ourselves with our inner compass and the things that we call into ourselves subconsciously, with the way we choose to use our words and our contributions to certain dynamics and things and patterns. We see with grace in a new way as we are wearing our little explorer caps how this all plays in. And then there's this kind of never-ending peace in that expansion and flowing like water. It's funny, I'm passing a water thing right now. There's waterfalls flowing off the side of this building. This is the journey, is the destination in a nutshell. love marketing. Make any hour golden hour. No, I disagree, golden leaf tea. I don't think your tea will do that for me, nor do I think that we need to do that. I think one of the beauties of golden hour is that it is special. Every hour doesn't need to be golden hour. The sun sets only at a particular time, casting a beautiful aura onto all it touches, so that we might look at the world a little more differently and take a break out of our busy lives to see the sunset. Not every hour is meant to be golden hour. So stop selling me a fake dream, sweet leaf tea. I ain't buying it. I'm thirsty.